Hi everyone, my name is Lakin Rainey. I'm going to be sharing my action research project that I have completed. My project was based on student achievement in reading. Taking a look at my action plan and the proposal that I had, it was based on testing student reading achievement, and the testing that I used was a testing called Acadience, also known as Dibble's testing. Now, this testing is something that is done 3 times throughout the school year. It's done in the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and ending of the year. Based on my students' Acadience testing results, I put my students in, not all my students, I took a group of students and I placed them in 2 groups. I had a control group which received one form of reading instruction just from me. And then I had an experimental group, which was my second group, and they received reading instruction from me. And they also received reading instruction from the paraprofessional that is in my classroom all day. As I go through the data, I'm going to talk about which group was the most successful. And the most successful group, while we're going through the data, just to be aware ahead of time, the most successful group was my experimental group that received 2 forms of reading instruction. So if we take a look at the data, this is a pie chart that I put together just to kind of see the breakdown. I had 24 students, and it breaks my students down into benchmark wise. So my blue group is the group that is above benchmark, so above first grade benchmark. My red group is well below benchmark. My yellow group is um, below benchmark, and then my green group is at benchmark. So as you can see, I had most of my students at the end of this. I had most of my students. Um, they scored above benchmark for first grade. So if I go and look at my data, that's broken down a little bit more. Um, so the testing that is on the left-hand side is my testing that was completed first. And then my testing on the right-hand side is the testing that was at the end of my research project. So my tier 2 students moved from well below benchmark to below benchmark. So well below benchmark would be like in the red, and the below benchmark would be either in the green or the yellow, just kind of depending where they scored at. Now this was my tier 2 students worked on nonsense words, fluency, correct letter sounds. So say they were given a nonsense word such as jib, and they were able to say the correct letter sounds j, I, b, and they were to get points for that. So through this project, I started with nonsense words, correct letter sounds. They were actually able to move and master to nonsense word fluency, whole word read. So instead of saying the correct letter sounds, if the word was jib, they were able to, instead of breaking it into each sound, they were able to say the whole word just by looking at it, jib. So they made improvement there based on getting that 2 forms of reading instruction. Tier 1 students moved from at benchmark to above benchmark. So they were at first grade benchmark already. They moved above at the end of this action research project. They were working on oral reading fluency words. So they were given a passage. They had 1 minute to read that oral reading fluency passage. And based in that 1 minute, how many words could they get correct? Now, one thing that I am working on with them still is slowing down while reading, because they were getting some of their words incorrect just because they were reading so fast because they knew that they were timed. Now I look at the role that each stakeholder can play in this action research project. So the first one is the administration role, which would be the principal. And her role would be to enforce reading instruction from the teacher and the paraprofessional, because we both would be providing reading instruction. So this would be continuous throughout the year. The teacher role would be providing the paraprofessional with appropriate reading instruction, tools and strategies. This honestly would be based on the students that she was given, and the instruction would also be based on what they needed to improve on. The teacher role would also be to work with the grade level teams to support all first grade students. My hope is that um, after presenting this, that this action research project can be um, spread out through the whole first grade team, and hopefully as it improves and we work on things, that it can be done throughout all of our elementary school. The next would be my paraprofessional role. The job for that would be to work with the teacher to support students. So we would just work together to plan instruction and then to provide effective reading instruction. Now, the reading instruction based on what they're working on would be between 2 to 4 weeks to show improvement. So if they're working on the nonsense word correct letter sound, I would expect between 2 to 4 weeks to show improvement in that area. And then I'd also reach out to the literacy coach just to kind of help mentor and assess students weekly and biweekly. They would come into the classroom just to assess students to see how they are doing. Next would be the outcomes and benefits from this research project. So the outcomes that I noticed were students were improving in overall Acadian's reading assessment. So across the board in all those foundational reading skills that they were tested on, they were improving. Students were also receiving more one-on-one instruction in reading. As we know, the COVID pandemic kind of put a um, halt on reading instruction because it's really hard to do virtually. So this action research allowed for that more one-on-one instruction in reading and providing them the instruction and support that they needed. Another outcome was that well below/below benchmark students can move to at benchmark in assessment scoring. So based on my project, I was able to show that these mostly my below benchmark students, they were able to move at benchmark. My well below students, they moved to below benchmark. So they might have been emerging kindergarten when this started, and now they're at maybe kindergarten 11. So they still showed improvement. Some benefits of this action research project is that every student that takes the Cadence Reading Assessment can show improvement, and the data does show that. Another benefit is that the school and grade level assessment scores are higher. So when we are looking at the data across the board for the first grade, our scores are higher because of this. And another benefit overall is that students just feel more confident in the reading skills when they are given more reading instruction throughout the year. And that is the end of my presentation for my student achievement in reading. Thank you.